activity, we're going to be working with solving for missing angles of a triangle. Now, we did work on in lesson 1, solving for a missing angle of a triangle when they had given us 2 known angles. So you'll notice that when we look at this triangle, they gave us 2 unknown angles. So we're going to have to go through and try and figure out what n is equal to. And when we figure that answer out, the answer is going to be placed into both of these angle measures. So here, if we kind of think through the process, before, when we worked with a triangle, we used the equation A plus B plus C equals 180 degrees. Because we know that a triangle equals 180 degrees. Well, we can use that same concept. So here, I'm going to go ahead and say this is A, this is B, and this is C. And you can label them however you want. So if I substitute in, well, A we said was n, so I'm going to put an n, plus B we said was n, so there's another n, plus C here we said was 42 degrees, equals 180 degrees. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and simplify. Now, in the work that we did out of lesson 1, in that activity, we were able to kind of simplify together numbers. Well, you can use that same concept. Before, they would always give us 2 angle measures where we had the digits. In this lesson, they're giving us at least 2 of the angles where they're a missing or an unknown. So we're going to go ahead and combine these. And we're going to chunk them together just to simplify a little bit. So here I have 2 n's. Well, another way that that can be written is 2n, still plus 42, equals 180 degrees. Now, some of you, once you get used to working through this, will probably go directly to this step instead of writing it out like we did in the first step up here of n plus n. So now if I look at this, we have to kind of reference back to what are our steps for solving a 2-step equation. Well, in order to solve this 2-step equation here, we have to work orders of operation backwards. So normally in orders of operation, we always do any adding or subtracting last. We're going to have to do that first. So if I'm going to get rid of any adding or subtracting, I'm going to have to go ahead and get rid of by doing the opposite. So right now we're plus 42, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to say minus 42. That cancels this out. Now remember, we have to balance the equation. So here's my equal sign. So whatever I did to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So we're going to say minus 42. Okay, remember, we're always trying to work to get that letter, that variable by itself. So now if I go through and I do 180 minus 42, that's 8, 3, 1. I get 138 degrees. And now I have 2n equals 138. Now we're down to a 1-step equation that we practiced in lesson 1. So in order to get n by itself, right now it's 2 times n, we're going to do the opposite and divide by the number to get n by itself. So now I divide it by 2. Whatever I did to one side of my equal sign, which is sitting right here, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2. Now, if you want to use your calculator, you may. You could also do this longhand. But right now I'm checking to see if you know the steps for solving for a 2-step equation. So now if I go through and I take 138 and I divide it by 2, that should give me 69. So n equals 69. So now I'm going to plug in 69 into each of these, and I'm just going to double check. Because when I add these together, they should give me 180. So 69 plus 69 plus 42. And when I do that on my I'm going to go ahead and use my calculator. When I do that on my calculator, if it'll pop up, come on. When I do this on my calculator, it should be 180 when I hit equals. 69 plus 69 plus 42 equals 180. So I did that correctly. Okay, so n and n, remember they are both the same variable. They had to be worth the same amount. So for letter A, we should have gotten 69 for each of those n's. Okay, so let's try another one. Shift the letter A off. I'm going to pull out, whoops. Letter B. Now, this is the same B as what is in your book on page 7 in your workbook. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at this one. Now here, they're giving us no angle measurements. We don't have any of them. All 3 of them have X's in all of the corners. So when we look at this one, we want to go through and kind of chunk our X's together and chunk our numbers together. So yes, we could write the equation X, so that was this one, plus X plus 10. Okay, that was this one right here. And then plus X plus 5. Okay, that was the third angle right there. So now that has to equal 180. Okay, so it looks really confusing, right? Well, lots of times when I go through to do this, instead of writing this equation right here, I just look at what I have on my triangle and I count my number of X's. So here's 1X, 2 X's, 3 X's. Okay, so I have 3 X's. There's no number in front of those X's, so I know they're all the same as a 1X. So I have 3 X's total. Now, with my non-X's, I'm going to go ahead and combine those. I have a positive 10 or plus 10, and I have a positive 5 or plus 5. So I'm just going to add 10 plus 5, which gives me 15. Okay, we would get the same thing if we worked up here in this equation. 1X, 2X, 3X. And then if I combine these, positive 10 and positive 5 gives me that positive 15. Now, when I put these together, remember it's a triangle, so they equal 180. Okay, so now we have to work orders of operation backwards. So my first step is going to be to get rid of any adding or subtracting. So right now it's plus 15. I'm going to do minus 15. That'll cancel it out. And I know that I'm moving this 15 because I want to get X by itself. So I have to move any of that adding or subtracting away from it first. Okay, remember we always do opposites, not always opposite, but we kind of work inverse. So that's why we have to do orders of operation in the reverse. Okay, so if I did minus 15 on the left side, I'm going to do minus 15 here. Okay, so I have 3X left on this side equals 180 minus 15 is going to give me 165. Okay, now we're down to a one-step equation. So to figure out what X is, I have to get it by itself. So right now it's 3 times X. So we're going to divide by 3. To get X by itself, cross it out. Whatever I did on one side of the equal sign, I have to do on the other. So I'm going to divide by 3. Okay, so yes, you can do this longhand if you want, but you don't have to. Having issues with my calculator here. So 165 divided by 3 gives me 55. So I just found out that X equals 55. Okay, so I found out what X is, but that's not my final answer. I'm going to have to go back in here and now place 55 where X is to find out what each of the degree measures are on that triangle. So this one's pretty easy. X, well, that was 55 degrees. So this angle's 55. Here, I'm going to go ahead and put where X is, I'm going to put a 55. Now I have to say plus 10. So 55 plus 10 gives me 65 degrees for this answer. And I'll circle these so you know they're the final answer. Okay, once again, we're going to substitute in where X is 55. So here's X. We're going to put a 55 plus 5. So 55 plus 5 gives me 60. So I just got 60 degrees for that corner, or angle. Okay, so now I can check myself. So I'm going to pull my calculator back out really quick, and I'm going to add these together to see if I get the 180. So 55 plus 65 plus 60. When I hit equals, it should be 180, and it is. Okay, so we did that correctly. So they're giving us more than 1x. They're not giving us any final angle measures. We have to go through and solve that. The key thing is that you are remembering that a triangle always equals 180 degrees. And then we're going to place everything that we know that they're showing us together, chunk the same letters together, chunk the just numbers together, and work through our equation, okay? Okay, so let's try another one. Look, darn it. Sometimes my eraser likes to work and sometimes it doesn't. It's a little slow today. Okay, so got a little bit left there. I'm going to shift this one up and we're going to try one more. Now this is your letter E out of your book. Okay, so this one's just slightly different. I'm going to enlarge this just a little bit. And I know it's hard to see the E in that little red circle, but it is a letter E. When we're looking at this, a couple things I want to point out. We've got this little red marking right here that we have to remember what that means. So that little red corner, that corner anytime they show that little box in a corner, that means 90 degrees. So they are really telling us one of the degree measures. It's just that we had to understand that that symbol in the corner, making that box, means it's a 90-degree angle. Now, of the other things that I have here, it looks like I have one Y and then another Y. So I've got two Y's. And then pay attention that this is a minus 30. So I'm going to write this out and then simplify it. And I know some of you will be able to go ahead and kind of chunk together. And I'll get to that point too. So of my Y's, I have 1, 2 Y's. Then I have a plus 90, because that's a positive 90 right here, okay? And then I have a minus 30. And it doesn't matter that I wrote them in a different order. And in the end, those together equal 180 degrees. Okay, most probably common made mistake on this one is kids will forget that this here is a minus 30. And they'll add 30 in and they'll throw their answer out. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna chunk together what we can. We already have our Y's simplified. Let's go ahead and put these two together, just so we're not looking at so much. So I still have 2Y. And then I've got, when I simplify this, 90 minus 30 would give me 60, and that's positive 60. So plus 60 equals 180. Okay? So if I go through, we're going to do orders of operation in reverse. Right now it's plus 60. We want to get rid of that, so minus 60. Okay, here's my equal sign, so we have to do the same thing. So minus 60. All right, we have 2Y equals 180 minus 60 gives me 120. Okay, so now we want to get that 2Y by itself, or sorry, that Y by itself. So I'm going to say, right now it's multiplying, so we have to divide by 2 to get rid of that 2. Divide by 2. So I have Y equals 120 divided by 2 is 60. I can do that one in my head. Okay, so I just found out that Y equals 60. So now I can go back into my triangle and I can substitute into each of these. Well, in this top corner here, it's just a Y. So this is 60 degrees. Okay, we already knew that this was 90. That was pretty easy. This was 60. Now I'm also going to go ahead and put my Y, which was 60, minus 30. So I substituted in for Y. I substituted my 60. So 60 minus 30 gives me 30 degrees. Okay, if I check that, I should equal 180 when I add these together. So 30 plus 60 is 90, plus another 90 does give me 180. And if you need to use your calculator to check it, then go ahead and do so. Okay? Now, you guys are going to have some homework. But really quick before I go on to that part, I do want to go over one thing. In some of your problems, so let me just peek at one. I'm not going to draw the triangle, but I'll maybe throw out the information that's on there. So if you look at, for example, letter C, okay, and I don't have the graphic up here, so it kind of looks something like this, and bear with me, my angle measurements are not going to be perfect, but you'll be able to tell just from the things that I have written in there. Okay, there's a Q here, and a Q here, and then a 3Q right up here. Now, had not gone over one of them where we had a number sitting in front of that Q. So you have to remember that this is the same as saying 3 Qs. 1, 2, 3. So you don't count this as a single Q here. It's really 3 Qs plus another one is 4 plus another one is 5. So there's really 5 Qs sitting in this triangle. Okay, so there's 5 Qs to give us that 180 degrees. Okay, so that's getting you started on letter C. But I kind of wanted to point that out because I knew a lot of you might get stuck on that where you've got a number in front of that Q. And as long as there's no symbol in between them, here it's the same as counting them as separate Qs and they just put them together. Okay, so you guys are going to go through and finish out that page 7. So you've got letters, the rest of the letters, whichever ones we didn't do. I have to flip back to my page. So letters, I think I have them right